Think of a man whose name is barely known. Yet without him, Bruce Lee's existence would have been impossible. A man who filled his blood with art, his spirit with courage, and gave his son the fire that would one day light up the world. His name was Lee Hoi-chuen, and today we tell the story of this remarkable figure, a story that remained hidden between the lines of history. It is a journey from poverty to greatness, the story of an artist who never abandoned his craft despite war, destruction, and darkness. On February 4th, 1901, in a small village of Guangdong, China, a child was born. No one knew, no one imagined, that this child would one day shape history. But destiny knew, and destiny played its part. Lee Hoi-chuen began his life in Cantonese Opera and later moved to Hong Kong, where he built his identity as an opera performer. Opera was not just singing, it was a complete art form that combined voice, acting, movement, and emotion. He grew up in a time of political instability and cultural upheaval in China, yet the flame of art never faded. When he first stepped onto the stage in Hong Kong, his voice stopped people in their tracks, a voice that came not from the chest but from the soul. His early films included titles like The Kid, Ripples of Desire, and others that marked the beginning of a legendary journey. Every stage, every film, every role brought him one step closer to greatness. In 1940, Lee Hoi-chuen traveled to the United States with his wife Grace Ho as part of a Cantonese opera company. It was a year-long tour that became one of the most memorable experiences of his life. In the bright city of San Francisco, while he was performing on stage, his son was born on November 27, 1940. The child was named Lee Junfan, who would later be known to the world as Bruce Lee. Many of his colleagues advised him to stay in America, promising a better life and greater opportunities. But Lee Hoi-chuen refused and chose to return to Hong Kong with his newborn son. That decision shaped the entire future of Bruce Lee's life. It was a father's choice rooted in love for his homeland. Just months after returning to Hong Kong, Japan invaded the city in December 1941. The Lee family lived under occupation for 3 years and 8 months. It was a time when films stopped, theaters went silent, and an artist's livelihood was at risk. Lee Hoi-chuen did everything he could to support his family, small performances, private shows, anything he could find. After the war ended, he restarted his journey, and during Hong Kong's rebuilding era, he became even more popular and successful. When the city began to breathe again, his voice gave people the strength to live once more. That is the true power of art. At the peak of his career, Lee Hoi-chuen was working in 5 to 6 films at the same time, a clear sign of his popularity and demand. Every role he played was unique, sometimes a father, sometimes a villain, sometimes a tragic hero. He could adapt to any character like water takes the shape of its container. Over a 30-year career, he appeared in more than 70 films, an achievement few could match at the time. Whether on the opera stage or a film set, his presence was always powerful. In the late 1950s, he delivered remarkable performances in several Cantonese films, each one adding a new chapter to his success. Lee Hoi-chuen introduced his son Bruce Lee to the world of cinema at a very young age. Bruce appeared in his first film when he was just 3 months old. It was one of the greatest gifts a father could give, opening the door to a world of art that would never close. At the age of 7, Bruce began learning Tai Chi from his father. This was the first step that led him toward the world of martial arts. Their relationship was not just that of father and son, but also of teacher and student. By 1950, when Bruce was 9 years old, he played his first major role alongside his father. That moment, when father and son stood together, felt as if time itself had paused to witness it. Lee Hoi-chuen was not just an actor. He was a guide, a teacher, and a light for his son. By the age of 18, Bruce Lee had already appeared in nearly 20 films, largely due to his father's guidance and connections. But life is not built only on success. In the early 1950s, Lee Hoi-chuen became addicted to opium, a common problem in Hong Kong at the time. This weakness became a painful chapter for the family. Yet Bruce's love for his father never faded. Instead, it made him stronger. In 1959, troubled by Bruce's involvement in street fights, Hoi-chuen made a difficult decision. He sent his young son to America so he could have a safer and better future. It was a heartbreaking choice. Bruce left Hong Kong with just $100 in his pocket. But he carried with him the courage and passion his father had given him. Standing at the harbor, watching his son leave, Hoi-chuen may have sensed that this boy would one day conquer the world. The tears in his eyes that day were not just of separation, but also of pride. On February 7, 1965, Hoi-chuen passed away in Hong Kong at the age of 64, just 3 days after his birthday. Only 6 days before his death, his grandson Brandon Lee was born. One life ended, another began. That is the way of nature. Bruce Lee was in America at the time, and when he heard the news, the son who could face the world broke down for a moment. Hoi-chuen was laid to rest in Seattle's Lakeview Cemetery, and today Bruce Lee and Brandon Lee rest beside him. 3 generations in one place, a silent and powerful image of love. Hoi-chuen's greatest legacy was his children. Bruce Lee became the king of martial arts, while Robert Lee became the lead singer of the famous Hong Kong band, the Thunderbirds. His life teaches us that a father's role is not just to provide, but to ignite a fire within his children that leads them to greatness. He gave Bruce his art, his courage, and the vision through which he saw the world. In later years, films portrayed his life and influence, keeping his memory alive. History may remember Bruce Lee, but those who truly understand know that behind that greatness stood a father's love, sacrifice, and quiet strength. Hoi-chuen, the man behind the legend, will always be remembered.